Hi, everyone. This is Sam Silverman, Managing Partner of EB5 Affiliate Network. Thank you for taking some time to join us on today's webinar. Today, I'm joined by my partner, Michael Schoenfeld. Today, we're going to be covering 8 green card benefits for EB5 investors. Obviously, when EB5 investors are considering making an investment, there's a number of different reasons why that investment is attractive to them. And today, we're going to try to cover some of the most important ones that tend to come up, and there'll probably be some that you weren't aware of, and so hopefully this will be helpful. Before we jump in, a lot of investors at this stage of the process are considering what project they're looking at investing in. It's important to confirm that a project is located in a targeted employment area, a TEA area. And we've developed and launched a new map that'll automatically tell you instantly if a project does in fact fall in one of these TEA areas, which means you only have to invest $900,000 instead of $1.8 million. So take a look at that if you're considering a specific project with an address to check. Also, another free resource also updated last month in 2020 is our EB5 Guidebook. The information in this webinar and a lot of other information and FAQs are also in this book. It's completely free. You can download it at eb5guidebook.com or get a hard copy on Amazon as well. So as you probably are aware, the EB5 Immigrant Investor Program offers foreign nationals permanent residency in the US, effectively known as a green card, in exchange for a qualifying investment of either $900,000 in a TEA or targeted employment area, or in a non-TEA area at $1.8 million. So as kind of an overview before we dive into the specific different benefits, what are some of the main reasons why investors find a green card very attractive? First, unrestricted employment options, better admission rate for college and undergrad and grad, lower college tuition, opportunity to travel freely, additional support during retirement, and other benefits as well that you probably wouldn't normally think of. So first, we're going to chat about unrestricted employment options. So as a green card holder compared to a non-green card holder. So let's talk about non-green card holders first, since that's how all these investors would start out as. So if you're in the US, you're limited to working at companies where you can get a work authorization, right? So that typically means only a small subset of the total companies that you could potentially work for, because not many companies are willing to go through the visa process, get approved, and then incur the additional expense and flexibility on timing, right? So you're typically forced to limit your job search to larger layered corporate organizations like a Microsoft or a Google. Big companies, typically very few small entrepreneurial or startup companies are willing or able to go through the work authorization process. It's temporary, so you're always looking over your shoulder, looking to consistently monitor changes in immigration rules and regulations and different security restrictions as well. As a green card holder, you can work with pretty much any type of company, startup, smaller companies, larger companies. You can terminate employment at will, leave to a new company as often, regular as you like. You don't have to worry about immigration, work authorization, or visa concerns. You can work anywhere. You can work in Alaska, Puerto Rico, Florida, New York, California, Texas, wherever you wanted, when you wanted. You could have multiple businesses. You could start your own business, and you're going to be eligible for retirement related employment benefits as well. The main thing is you can change jobs, seek different employers without fear of losing sponsorship, and you just have a lot more flexibility in terms of working in the United States.
And this is probably the largest benefit that we see many of our EB5 investors are looking for, is not being beholden to the H-1B visa and not having just restricted employment opportunities within the US because it's getting more and more challenging to get that employment sponsorship.
So one other important driver of demand is college admissions. So, as you probably know, it's much easier to get admitted to a US college or university if you're applying as a domestic applicant. Colleges break up the number of slots they have available between international and domestic applicants, and there's just a lot more spots available for domestic applicants, and so as a result, the admission rate is higher just simply by being a non-international applicant. So that right there is very, very important, not something that a lot of people realize. And it doesn't affect all potential investors. Some investors are moving for retirement and their kids are already working and they're not looking to go back to school. But a lot of younger families, education is really important, especially for the kids, graduate and undergraduate. So that's a really important advantage to being a US resident. Along the same vein is the tuition cost. So when you compare the same idea of out-of-state or international student versus in-state student, you get a similar advantage, this time financially, in terms of cost savings, right? So tuition, $167,000 versus $54,000, very significantly different if you're an in-state resident, right? Versus an out-of-state, international student, it's going to be significantly higher, right? So, when you're looking kind of at the entire EB5 investment, what's the total cost? What's the benefit? How much? How long? This is an important line item to factor into that overall analysis. If you have children who are going to be potentially going to undergraduate or graduate programs as a result of the kind of move to the US from the foreign country. Another really important reason is travel flexibility, right? So on a lot of the work authorizations and other visa categories, there's always, potential issues leaving the country, coming back in. Is the I-9 up to date? And, are you going to get a border officer who's going to give you a hard time, or are they going to, just kind of wave you through and not ask you a lot more detailed questions? You basically avoid all of that when you have the green card because you're a permanent resident. And so it's just a lot lower stress, and it allows you to, travel anywhere in the US you want, obviously, and then easier in and out of the US internationally. And then furthermore, if you decide that you want to pursue permanent citizenship or naturalization within 5 years after holding the green card, then you get the US passport, which opens you up, which gives you visa-free travel to hundreds of countries around the world. Another item that isn't so commonly discussed or known is some of the retirement benefits. So there's pension benefits if you're a retired green card holder, and there's also healthcare benefits, including Medicare and other social welfare programs for older green card holders. Additionally, in terms of healthcare benefits, you're also going to be getting access to state-of-the-art healthcare. Right, the U.S. health system has some of the most advanced healthcare technology, and so as a resident, you're going to have easier access to a lot of those technologies, for retirement, but also for the treatment or care of a serious illness, etc. Yep. So there's also a couple of other kind of operational items that are worth noting. First, as an EB5 investor, this green card benefit is going to be applicable to yourself, your spouse, and any unmarried children under 21 at the time of the filing. So it's kind of a whole family deal. Second, when you're in the US, it's much easier to obtain a mortgage with a green card. And additionally to that, it's just much easier to get financing kind of in general. That doesn't only apply to purchasing a home, but also for leasing a car, or for taking a loan to start a business, or for getting a credit card, or setting up bank accounts and things. It's just much easier to exist and do financial transactions in the United States if you have a green card. It's significantly easier because every financial option is pretty much available to you, the same that would be available to a US citizen. But if you don't have a green card, then you're an alien resident. And so the number of companies that provide financial services to alien residents is very, very small compared to the total number of financial companies operating, serving green card holders and citizens. And so that typically means, much harder to get a loan or get financial services, and typically means if you can get them, you're going to pay a premium because you're in the minority seeking that service, and there's few competitors. Additionally, it's easier to get health insurance and life insurance, and it's just going to be easier to exist and meet your healthcare needs with a green card, with more vendors being available to compete for your business.
There's lots of these soft benefits where you are treated as a U.S. person at that point, and it makes many facets of daily life a lot easier, including the financing, the healthcare, and all of those things. It all becomes easier with a green card.
Yep, and kind of as a sidebar to that, Mike and I both attended college, a university in the United States, and we both recruited for professional jobs following graduation. We saw a lot of our friends who had come from international backgrounds, and the number of companies available that were able to recruit and go through the visa process for H-1B or OPT, there were just significantly fewer options available for international students. And so that's unfortunately just how a lot of the US companies operate. But that also kind of falls under the soft benefits and work authorization benefits of obtaining the green card as well. All right, now we're going to shift gears and quickly talk about two of the current EB5 projects that we have available. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the chat box, if you have any questions, please submit them and we'll try to cover them quickly at the end of the webinar.
Great. So we're going to briefly talk about two projects. Before providing any of the detailed information, we need to ensure that you're a qualified investor for the project and an accredited investor. So I want to give that disclaimer before we start. But the first project that we want to briefly discuss is a project located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's a tower that's half hotel on the bottom, a Hyatt-centric hotel, and it recently opened. In the top of the building are condominium units. This is an EB5 project that we structured several years ago with a phase 1 of EB5 that already has I-526 approvals and is exemplar approved. And we added on a second tranche to this project, another $18.9 million of EB5 capital that we're now accepting investors into. The project is nearly complete at this point. The vertical construction is done, and the development is just finishing the interior of some of the condominium units. And what this means is that all of the required jobs have already been created. So as an investor, when you're thinking about projects, how I would always think about a project is that there's two main areas of risk: immigration risk and financial risk. On the immigration side, you want to know for sure that the project will be approved by the US government. And in this case, the project phase 1 has already been approved. And additionally, you want to ensure that all of the EB5 jobs that are needed will be created. And this project has already created all of the jobs needed for every EB5 investor. Then on the financial side, you have to put on your due diligence hat and look at the deal itself and understand the financial structure of it. And that will happen by going through some of the detailed offering documents. And you can receive those after we ensure that you are an accredited investor for the project. And this is a loan style project, which is very common in EB5, where the EB5 funds are coming in as debt. The second project is a little different flavor than the first one. This is an equity style project. The name is Saltaire St. Petersburg. It's a condominium development located in St. Petersburg, Florida. And this project is a little earlier on in construction. They've broken ground and they are just starting the vertical construction. There's actually only a couple of slots left in this project out of the 10.1 million of EB5. And I think part of the reason is that it does have a higher preferred return in the deal of 6%, which is an industry-leading preferred return. And on this project, USCIS has already approved the exemplar as well. But of course, that was at the $500,000 level, not at the new $900,000 level. So on both of these deals, if you reach out to us, we can ensure that you're able to receive the documents and we can share the project information and push the conversation forward.
Thank you, Mike. We're now going to open it up to a few questions that we got. So one of the questions is, what's the timing around obtaining citizenship and is it required? So to answer that, citizenship is optional. You don't have to become a United States citizen if you don't want to. If you do want to, you can pursue that after you've held the green card for 5 years, right? So once you have the green card in your hand, fast forward 5 years, and then if you wanted to become a citizen and actually get a US passport, then you'd be able to pursue that path if you wanted. The primary differences for that citizenship versus the green card are going to be the right to vote, the right to serve in the option to serve in the US military, and then the passport are going to be the major differentiators between green card versus citizen. Yep, so another common question we got is about the timing of the filing of the I-526 petition and then the age of any children at the time of filing and what the treatment is for that in terms of, you know, when that application gets processed and approved. And the kind of high level idea is that once the application is filed, then at the time of filing, that children's age is frozen. Let's say that they were 17 when they applied, and then, you know, a few years later they got approved. They're frozen during the review process of the I-526 petition. When they become unfrozen and where there can sometimes be a problem is when the I-526 does get approved and then there's a gap between approval time and then when they actually get the visa. Typically, if the visa category for that country is current, then that's usually only 3 to 6 months, and it's pretty quick and it's usually not a problem. But if the investor is from China and there's currently, you know, a 7 to 8 year or however long waiting period, then that investor could age out beyond the 21-year age cutoff, because now they're having to wait another 7 or 8 years after their I-526 is approved because the visa category for China is not current, right? So basically, as long as you're not from China, Vietnam, or another country in the future that does become with a visa backlog, you know, then it's not going to be a problem. All right, we've got one more question. Where can I get more information about the second equity project that was described? if you go on our website on the bottom right here, EB5 Visa Investments, you can pull up information, videos, downloads, and all the key information on those projects. And then to request the offering documents, we'll have to have you complete a short accredited investor questionnaire. But all that information is on our website. And if you do have any questions about either of these projects, anything that we covered in the webinar, or anything else EB5 related, please contact us. We're pretty good about getting back to people on the same day via email, info@eb5an. We got one other question that came in about I-526 processing time. So historically, our projects have gotten approved in about 1 to 2 years. I-526 is filed. If we look back at the hundreds of investors who have filed in our projects, typically 1 or 2 years. The posted processing times tend to be longer. I believe it's around 2 to 3 years now on the USCIS website, although they're constantly adjusting that, mainly because they want to limit the number of responses that have to be given to people if you're outside of the processing time. So what they'll do is they'll just expand it, even though it's really taking less time to avoid a lot of questions coming in. But historically, I would say a good estimate is about 2 years to be safe. If you have a really complicated source of funds with many different sources and it's really complicated, it might take a little bit longer for them to review it. But typically, the most important part of the application is the project. And, we've done 13 projects so far with Colder and EB5AN combined, and we have 100% approval rate. So at this point, the government knows that style of project, and we typically don't have a long processing time.
And for a specific example there, the last 5 I-526s that we've had approved for investors took right at that 2-year mark, and we've had several coming in over the past month. So, of course, past performance is not guaranteeing the future, but because all of our projects are pre-approved by the government, they've already reviewed the project documents before you invest. That does materially speed up the processing time because they're not re-looking at the project.
Yep, exactly. When the government's reviewing these applications, they're reviewing both the project component and the personal component. So on the project side, it's where's the project, how much money is it, how many jobs does it create, business plan, all the details on the project. But then they're also reviewing the person. So, John Patel from, Ahmedabad, India, age 35, wife, 2 kids. Where's he from? Where did he work? And where is his 900,000 from? Right? So the government's going to approve both of those at the same time. And only when both of those are approved together is the I-526 going to be approved. So that's kind of mechanically how it works. So we ran a little bit over today, but we'll leave it there. Any other questions, please reach out to us. We have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel as well. This webinar, if you want the slides for this webinar, send us an email at info@eb5an.com and we're happy to send them over. And if you want to watch the video again, you should get a link to it automatically, or you can check our YouTube channel and it'll be posted there early next week. So thank you again for joining, and we hope that was helpful for you.
Thanks, everyone.